everybody, Car Biker here. Just out for an evening ride. Group of one. Sometimes that's the best, I think. Group riding's awesome, but just going out by yourself and exploring is awesome too. And I say exploring because I'm going to do part 2 of MrAusAdventure's Go Exploring Challenge. Now, part 1 was go and see a local thingamajig, and I went to Oliver's Mount, the street racing circuit in Scarborough. This video is not going to be as good as that because I've not really got an answer to part 2. So part 2 of the challenge was go and ride a road that you've never ridden before. So a road you don't know, I guess, is the implication, as opposed to, riding a road that you walk down every day but don't ride down. Now, the problem is that since getting a bike and learning to ride, well, not in that order, clearly, I've kind of gone out and looked for every possible ride I can think of, every road, go and try them out, see which ones are the best. Now, I didn't do them all, didn't go down every road there is, but I went down a heck of a lot of roads, and I went round the map and looked for all the roads that looked like they could be good for riding down. Very careful on that one. That junction, I'll explain why in a minute. So I kind of rode everything, and the ones that I missed when I did the IAM course, we did then. So I've kind of, covered all bases really. So I thought what I'd do instead is ride some roads I've not ridden before, and also some bits of stuff I haven't ridden before. Some off-roading, thusly demonstrated by the guy on L plates who's riding on the pavement. And I thought I'd explore some areas that I used to go down and ride around on my push bike or walk around. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, that first bit where I said I've got to be careful here, another one looked riding off-road, well done. Slightly different. The first one I think was just coming out of his house, whereas that one is just being a menace. That first one, that junction, I say about being careful there because I had a friend was actually killed there. And what he was doing, he was trying to cross the road coming home from school. Our school was just probably about a quarter of a mile up the road from there. Really good school. And he was coming out of school, riding home, and he tried to ride across the road quickly there. And he got hit by a bus. And unfortunately, although he survived for a couple of days, he never got his consciousness back. So he died. So you got to be careful on that one. So that's riding place 1. They're not all quite as miserable. But they might be. I don't know. I can't actually think of where I'm going to go. I think I'll go. Now, is there still a bit down here? This bit here that I'm going to go exploring, I haven't been down for, say, since I was a kid, and we're talking probably, well, I used to cut through here occasionally, so probably 30 years since I've been down here, since I was a teenager. And it didn't look like this, strangely. What it actually looked like was a railway bridge that we used to go and sit underneath, which is that one there. Oh, I can't even get near it anymore. Oh, look at that. So I'll just pull up here and I'll kind of look over and show you. There's this little electricity station. Stop the mic. This little electricity substation thing here that always had a fence around it, but they seem to have made the fence further away and yet shorter. I reckon you could easily get over that as a teenager. And back in my day, we probably would have done. But then we had that bridge there. So that's a road bridge over this railway line. And we used to go and sit under it. I don't know if you can see where you got the pillar, the rails are on the right, and we'd sit under it on the left. But all of this was just fields. I remember when this was all just fields. And I used to come here just to kick a ball about, have a mess about, on the field that is, and when I had a girlfriend who lived near here who had a dog, we used to take the dog walking on here, chuck frisbees and things for it. As a lot of areas now, unfortunately, around here, I say unfortunately, I suppose it depends on your point of view, but where they used to have green spaces, a heck of a lot of it now is just housing, because it is a city and they're always getting more people and you need more places to put them. Anyway, we're still on the road for the minute and I've got a plan of going to a different place, which is round this corner. Well, round a corner up here. It's an old people's home, and I'm guessing still is. Yes, indeed. And this road here was where a friend of mine used to live that I used to hang around with from being about 6 or 7 years old. And to get to his house, I had to come down here. Now, I used to go down that bit on my bicycle, but I can't do that on a motorbike, not legally anyway. So I'll go down this bit alongside. So that bit over there is a cycle track now, and it used to be a railway line, but it was never an active railway line when I used to come down here. Weirdly, those houses are all new as well. They were, when I was a kid, that was all fields too. I say all fields, there was one house there, and we called it the Haunted House. And it was an old derelict house that you used to go and stand and look at, and some kids were brave enough to go inside and had come out screaming about how there were ghosts and rats and spiders as big as your hand. It got demolished before I ever got brave enough to go in and have a look around. Yeah, that's the cycle path bit. Yeah, we used to call it the cinder track because it was just the old railway line, and then they took up the actual metalwork, the lines and the sleepers, all the wooden sleepers they had back then before it all got to be concrete. And they took away all of the kind of big lumps of rubble to use for hardcore and what have you when you're building roads and houses and things and you want the hardcore down. And they were left with this weird black, it wasn't earthy, it was like a shingle almost, like Brighton Beach, where I went the other week. You can kind of see a bit of it there, so apart from the big stones that weren't there at the time, that kind of blackness around it, it was all that. And we used to play on there because it was bushes either side, and this is back when you were allowed to, so I'd go around to my other friend's house who lived just at the other side of that cycle track there, and we'd go and play on the cycle track. His parents, unlike what you get nowadays, I don't know if it's like this all around the world, but certainly around here, nowadays, if you've got a kid of 5 or 6 years old, it seems you're not allowed to let them out your sight. Some people don't seem to let them out of the house. But I would go around to my friend's house and his mother would say, right, off you go out, come back in 3 or 4 hours. And that'd be it, we wouldn't see them again. Parents wouldn't see them again for the rest of the day. I'd go around at maybe 1 o'clock, head out, and we'd go home at 5 for our tea. And we'd play in all these areas. We'd not go too much further than maybe 2 or 3 miles away, but out just running about, playing on our bikes, that kind of thing. It wasn't far from here I had my first ever injury on a bicycle, where I had a faulty mudguard and it stuck into the back of the tyre and just locked the front wheel, sent me over the handlebars, and I came crashing down back on the same mudguard and cut my head open. I had to go to the hospital and get some stitches. This is all looking a bit different. Can I still go down here, I wonder? Looks like I can. Let's try this one. This one here was where one friend lived, and at the other end another friend lived. The other friend had all Star Wars figures. They were good fun. Back when Star Wars figures looked like the Star Wars characters and not all looked like He-Man. That's all kind of similar to where it was. I'll head down to the end of this road that they've just newly gravelled. Thank you, council. And I'll go back into the off-road section. Off-roading isn't really my thing, but you know. I'll show you this bit because I want to ask you a question. Do you have these where you are? And what do you call them? These are just, because most of the time, a lot of these houses were built kind of back in the 30s and 40s. Some of these ones here are probably a bit newer. My first house was nearby and it was built in the 30s. It's 36, I think. Just before the Second World War. And because they're all terraced, you've got no real way of getting out the back of your house. So they put these in. And then people built garages on them where, well, I was going to say where I used to keep my car, but actually most people seem to leave the car on the street where it can be stolen and fill up their garages with junk. But yeah, I just wonder, what do you call these things? Round here we call them 10-foots because they're 10 foot wide. But when I talk to people about 10-foots that aren't from round here, they look at me like I'm mad. So, final bit of exploring I think this one will be. Down another 10-foot, this is a special one, because this is a 10-foot that goes around the back of my first house. First house that I owned. And it might be even worse than I remember it being, but actually it's not looking too bad. This one was all broken up. It's still pretty broken up, but a lot better than it used to be. So this one, see, is where it was at the back of my house. My house was over in that direction. I'll go past it in a second and show you. And but before that, when I was a child, I used to come around here because my first house was quite near where I grew up. And this was a cracking place. First guy I ever knew had a motorbike, or rather, well, he was the first guy I knew who ended up with a motorbike. I didn't know him when he had one, but I knew his mother. She worked in the Chinese takeaway. I knew his mother, I knew him as a friend, and his mother was a biker. She had a Harley that she built herself, and she lived just over there. I can't remember which house, but she was in one of those, and she built this Harley in the garage. And this is where we used to come and have our Guy Fawkes night celebrations. So people would come and build a huge fire on here. You know, lots of basically any piece of wood you wanted rid of, it would get piled up, pretty much where it's overgrown there. And it used to be at least as tall as that garage that now appears to be used for graffiti. And on fireworks night, bonfire night, 5th of November, for those of you who aren't British, but on fireworks night we used to come and light that, watch that burn, set off a few fireworks on this field, and it was good. I think they stopped it because people kept coming a week early and just setting fire to whatever had been left there. So it all got ruined, really. It always gets ruined by some plonker, doesn't it? And then I remember this bit at the end, which is still all brambles by the look of it. We used to come and pick brambles from there, from an old lady's garden, who let us pick the brambles, and we'd stick them in plastic cups and try and sell them door to door. We were right scruffs. But you could get, you know, maybe 10p. They weren't worth it, but maybe 10p for a cup of brambles off some housewife or something that was in the house when you knocked and was happy to give you 10p for a bag of sweets or just to go away. And I also remember just where these brambles are and this fence is, it's gone now, but there used to be a tree, big tree, and oh, it's going that way. It's proper off-roading. Used to be a big tree just here, and I was always getting dared to climb to the very top. And one day I did it. I got to the very top, and the branch snapped, and I landed on my back. And I just for a minute or two, I couldn't move at all, just from the shock of hitting my back that hard. And this is the back of my old house, and they've changed the garage. I built a garage there, and they've got rid of it. Put a new one up. This is where I used to park my little car. I had a little MX-5 I used to park in there. but not in that garage because it's a new one. But not a lot of it's changed, to be honest. The first bit obviously has changed, where it's all houses. I'll not go that way. That way is proper off-roading. But the rest of it's all kind of similar, really. Looks like my old neighbour still lives there. He was a taxi driver. So there you go. That's my exploring challenge. I couldn't really find a road I hadn't ridden before, I'm afraid, Mr. Adventure. But hopefully that will suffice. Anyway, I've yammered on for far too long now, so I'll close my visor and I'll say thank you for watching. Ride safe, everyone, and I'll talk to you all again soon.